Okay, guys. So I'd like to briefly review, as briefly as possible, some of the things we talked about in class today and where we're at this point of our expository essay. And at this point, you should have a good attempt completed on the each portion of the essay, the introductory paragraph, the three body paragraphs, and the conclusion paragraph. But there are a couple of sentences that may have been a bit challenging for you. And so I want to discuss those to give you a better understanding of them and maybe a clearer direction on how to write them. So, the two I want to talk about here that you see, I want to talk about how to write a hook and I want to talk about how to write transition sentences. With hooks, a hook is almost like comparable to when you go fishing and you have a hook at the end of your fishing line that's supposed to grab the fish and pull it in. A hook in an essay is kind of like that. It grabs the reader's attention and pulls them into the rest of your essay. So this is the first sentence they read, and one that's really important to write. That's a very catchy way to get their attention, but also deals directly with what your essay is about. I'm going to give you three options about how you might choose to write those hooks. You might write what we call a quotation hook, you might write a descriptive hook, or you might write a metaphor or simile hook. So let me talk about each of those individually to give you some ideas and a couple examples of each one. So the first sentence of your essay might be a quotation hook. And a quotation hook, the quote could be from a famous person, it could be from a line of a song or a line from a famous movie, or even a quote that's really famous, but we just don't know who said it. The point of that quote is it has to have something to do with what your essay is about. All right. So if you think about the theme statement, we're trying to show in this essay that a theme statement is universal and applies not only to the two stories we read by Gary Soto in Oranges and seventh grade, but could be applied to many different stories. And that theme statement has one word that it really boils down to. So, is your essay about risk? Or is your essay about love? Or is your essay about chance or taking chances? If you can find a quote that deals with your theme concept, you could begin your essay with that quote as long as it helps add to your essay and gets your essay off on the right start. So the one I chose for an example is I took a quote from Annabelle Lee. And the quote says, "She lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me." So my focus of my essay is love. So I found a quote that uses that word. And then I would build upon that and talk about how my theme statement that includes love also ties in with this quote that I begin my essay with. So I could start my essay with a quote. I could also start my essay with a descriptive hook. This is a very vivid, full of description of a scene that draws your readers into your writing. A good description hook will make your reader want to know what's coming next. So you could take a story like we read with seventh grade, for example, and kind of just tell a quick couple of sentences that are a teaser about the story that help introduce your theme concept and your theme statement. So I might write something like, "The boy shook inside as the last word of what he thought was French left his mouth. Had what he said been his last chance with the girl of his dreams?" And so that would be the first two sentences of my essay. Again, giving my reader a vivid description of what's going on with this boy, and also introducing the idea that love is my theme concept and whatever my theme statement might be. So, a descriptive hook. I could also write a metaphor or a simile hook. Metaphors are comparisons that do not use like or as, and similes are comparisons that do. And that simile hook engages your reader because it makes them think about the topic in a different way. So, for example, let's go back to your theme concept. Are you writing about risk, or are you writing about love, or are you writing about taking a chance? Can you compare those things to something else? Like taking a chance is like jumping out of an airplane without a parachute, or taking a chance is like, I don't know, um, saying I love you and not knowing what you're going to expect in return. Um, Love, like my example is love is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That's from a famous movie called Forrest Gump. So I'm comparing love to this box of chocolates. When you open the chocolates, you don't know what kind is going to be inside. You don't know what love is going to bring you. So I'm comparing love to a box of chocolates. So you can start with a quotation, but again, make sure that quotation has something to do with your topic, specifically your theme concept. You could start with a descriptive hook where you tell a little bit of a teaser of a story, or you could start with a metaphor or simile hook and compare your theme concept to whatever metaphor or simile you can compare to get your essay started with the right kind of tone to it. The other thing I want to talk about is transition sentences. We want the reader to really feel like what they're reading is not five individual paragraphs just kind of thrown together, but really five paragraphs that work together to make a complete argument about why you are correct in your thinking. So, to make sure that all of our paragraphs work together, we have to use transition sentences. And this helps our essay flow smoothly from one paragraph to the next. Transition sentences highlight a relationship between the main ideas of two paragraphs and your essay, like one connected piece of writing. Again, not just like a bunch of paragraphs thrown together. You can't assume that your reader knows everything that you know. So sometimes you need to lead them through the paper by showing those connections. Transition sentences should help the reader anticipate. In other words, anticipate or know what's coming next in the essay that they're going to read about, and also see how it's connected to what they've already read about. So, transition sentences should really help the reader anticipate and connect. Here's what you should not do. Please don't use these kind of things for your transition sentences. Things like, this was my paragraph about conflict, or my next paragraph is about characters. These make it sound as if nothing in your essay is connected. You're writing about very different things. There's no thing that ties it all together. So be careful that you're writing transition words, transition sentences that make your essay flow from one paragraph to the next. Let me show you what I mean with that. Transition sentences. Let's say my first paragraph is about the characters of these two stories, and my second paragraph is about the conflict in those two stories. What I might do is in my first paragraph, I might have the sentence, central characters and their actions in these stories demonstrate that love can make you do crazy things. So my first paragraph is about the characters. I'm going to take that word and include it in my conclusion sentence to let the reader know, to remind them what I've just got done talking about, which is the characters. My next paragraph might begin with the conflicts of these two stories also show that the theme is universal to many stories. So I'm saying, hey, anticipate, reader, that next I'm going to talk about conflict. So I need to take the word character, I need to take the word conflict, and I need to include them both in one sentence together. So the sentence that I write, this is right here in the black letters toward the bottom. This might be the transition sentence at the end of my first body paragraph. The characters of seventh grade in Oranges experience many events on their journeys, including conflicts that they must overcome. So I remind them what they just read about, which is the characters, and then I anticipate or have them anticipate what's coming next, which is the conflicts. Think about what your first paragraph is about, what your second paragraph's about, and what your third paragraph's about, and try and tie those words into the transition sentence for each paragraph. When you get to the end of the third paragraph, though, there's nothing to transition to. You have no more body paragraphs. So what do we put in there? Well, for the third body paragraph, for the conclusion sentence, I would suggest beginning with the words "in conclusion." That lets the reader know that you're wrapping up your essay. I would also include the words literary elements somewhere in the sentence because you remind them that's what you've been talking about. And you might include the words universal theme. That also will give them an idea that this is what this essay is all about. Telling me that universal themes are present in many stories, and I've just used these literary elements to explain how they are present. Last thing I would talk about is the final thought, the very, very last sentence of your essay. So, what do you want the reader to hear? What do you want them to walk away from your essay remembering about literary elements, about universal themes? What is it that they should remember and use in the future as a reader about universal themes, about literary elements? Those phrases should also be included in your final thought, which is the last thing they read, the last message you had for them on the topic. So we've talked about hook, which hook you're going to use. You have to decide. We've talked about transition sentences and how you should be writing those, and then a final thought. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll be glad to fill you in on the details. And hopefully this helps you out as you work on your essay.